Okay, having created some basic materials, let's create a more advanced PBR material using a set of PBR images from one of the open source sites that we talked about, like freepbr.com, Polyhaven, Ambient CG, a number of different sites that have free and paid resources for physics-based rendered materials. So the idea with these materials, again, is that a collection of images is going to allow us to produce a more realistic looking surface without actually having modeled all those surfaces. So this is the freepbr.com site, and here we're going to do a search for brick, and we will pick a brick pattern. I kind of like this on the second page here, this worn out brick pattern. It's usually comes off pretty good, so I'm going to pick worn out brick, and we're going to see that this is the pattern or the material that we're going to create, and there's a Harshbricks Unity and a Harshbricks Unreal Engine and Harshbricks BL for Blender. One of the unique characteristics of these PBR materials is the normal map, and the normal map for Unreal Engine is a DirectX based normal map, and I believe Unreal Unity uses a OpenGL one. Now, the difference between the two is typically just flipping the green channel, so much so that there's an option in Unreal to flip the green channel so that you could use the other PBR or other normal map in this one if you found a material that didn't have the proper DirectX normal map. So, downloading the Harshbricks Unreal Engine.zip and then extracting it to a group of files is going to give us a folder with these 6 files in it. Remember, I said PBRs could have anywhere from 2 to 6. Typically, it would be the diffuse or color, or here they've called it albedo, the actual picture, and the normal map, that kind of bluey green one. Well, here we also have an AO, ambient occlusion, which is for shadows. We have a height map, a metallic map, and a roughness map. So if we look at each of these files, this is the actual picture, the color image. You can see here Harshbricks albedo at the top. This is the shadows. This is where shadows would be created within our material. The height map, the light spots are higher than the dark spots. The metal map, how metallic is that brick wall? Well, it looks like there's almost no metal, so it's all black. If there were metallic pieces, you would see white in this map. This is the normal map, and you can see how it looks raised or recessed. This is the normal look for it, and it's this kind of blue, purple, green type color. If it's the wrong one, if it's the OpenGL instead of the DirectX, it looks very similar. It's just sort of inverted, and there is a way to change it. And then this is a roughness map. So we're going to use these 6 textures to create a PBR material beyond the one that we just created. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to slide this over for a second, and we're going to bring up our content browser. We're in materials. I'm going to open this and create a new folder called textures. And you know what? Let's create it up top here. Under materials, let's create it at this level. Textures, I'm going to open the textures, and we're simply going to drag these 6 textures in. These are textures and they just import automatically. One option that you may see sometimes is that the Harshbricks normal was imported as a normal map, so it recognized this as a normal map and it was properly formatted. So that was good. It worked for us nicely. So back in content and materials, I'm going to delete this because I didn't need it. This little pop-up sometimes annoying. It sometimes gets lost on your screen, so I selected here to delete, and then you have to hit that little delete to go away. So now I want to create that Harshbricks PBR material. So I'm going to create a new material. I'm going to say M_PBR harsh bricks. So we're going to dock our window up here. And now what we want to do is add these textures and connect them to the various pins. So if I go to our content, textures, and we take the color or albedo map, we can connect it to the pin. You can see we now have a smooth round looking ball. If we bring up our space, we can see we have a metal map here. So I'm going to drag the metal map in, and we're going to connect it to the pin. We don't really have any difference because there is no metallicness to this. Next up would be our roughness. So I'm going to grab the roughness mask, connect it. We start to see a little bit of difference here where it loses some of its shine. Organizing these is always a bit of a challenge. So next up on our map would be, we don't have any emissive, we have a normal map, so let's add a normal map. This is the one that usually makes the biggest difference. So we're starting to get better there. And then we have an ambient occlusion, which is the shadows. So let's grab our AO map here and connect it. And then our last one will be the height. Our height map, and we're going to connect that. So we have a new material. I'm going to save this. We're going to preview it, and then we're going to come back and make some changes. Let's add, this is going to lead to our next discussion on world line textures, but let's add the new material that we just created called PBR, M_PBR harsh bricks to this. In game, we now have a wall that looks like it has shadows to it and has a bit more realism to it than what it might otherwise have. If we wanted to see the effect a little bit better, we could try adding a light here. Let's add a spotlight. I just find sometimes a spotlight sort of helps give you a little bit better view of the fact that this material actually interacts with the light and sort of looks like it has textures and shadows now that didn't exist before because of these textures. Remember, it was a smooth corner, and now it looks like it has some depth and texture to it. So one of the things that you might think is, well, that's scaled wrong. And we saw a little bit about scale earlier when we did our first sample material where we added a texture coordinate node. So we right-clicked and said texture coordinate. And this let us scale. And what we wanted to do, or what we did, we could expand this node and scale individually in the two U and V directions. But if we just drag out from here, we can do a multiply node. And then we can scale in both directions uniformly using the one entry. And we're going to connect this to the UV on each of these because we want to make sure that we scale all the maps, because the lines in the color map need to line up with the colors in the roughness and the colors in the normal map. They all have to be scaled the same way in order for this material to look properly. 4, 5, 6. So now with those set like that, I could scale, say, 3 times, and I now have a scaled pattern. Save and apply it, and this looks maybe a little more like the scale that I wanted. If I was to drag this material out and drop it on the block next door, you're going to notice something a little weird. The bricks in this one look bigger than the bricks in that one. And if I do the same thing here, because of the way we've done it here, these materials have been scaled or stretched based on the scaling or stretching of the object they were applied to. So as you can well imagine, this isn't the end of our discussion on materials. There are better ways to do the materials. This is just one of the ways to add some texture to it. So we've created this PBR material, and let's maybe grab these nodes and alignment, distribute horizontally, just so they're not overlapped. And we're going to sample PBR material with 6 textures and a scaling value, right? Because we can scale it based on this. And if we zoom in here, we should probably do a 1 to add a single vector constant, connect it to the pin, and then we can set this to, I think we had 3 was our value. So now this becomes our scaling value. So if we go back to our PBR site, one of the things that you may have noticed is that there are a variety of different materials. They can be used for things like metal walls, there's grass materials, all of these different types of materials, from rock, different types of concrete, flooring, metals, metals with occlusions, metal with rust, pressed tin type metals, ceilings. You'll even see things like chainmail and stuff like that done as PBR materials to help add that sense of realism. So in our materials so far, we created the basic GC blue and green and showed you the actual hex values that you could use and how you could get a very specific color. We did a transparent color by changing the output node from opaque to translucent. We used a picture and applied it to a surface by using it just as to drive the color node. Then we did a basic 2-node where we had a color map and a normal map and did a PBR material. And here we did a more advanced PBR material where we did a 6 different texture maps. And in this one, we also had the scaling node for our texture. The point where we're at right now is that maybe this doesn't look quite the way we wanted it to. And that's going to lead us into our next discussion on world-aligned materials. Thank you.